Okay, so if you've ever dived into the Netflix series Dark, you know what you're getting into. It's got this legendary reputation for having like the most complex, absolutely mind-bending timeline in TV history, right? It's this story that's just so tightly woven across generations, and not just generations, but worlds, that trying to untangle it feels, well, pretty much impossible.
So, exactly how complex are we talking here? I mean, really? Well, you know what? That's the challenge we are taking on right now. We're going to grab those threads together and piece by piece, we are going to untangle this beast. Okay, deep breath, because this is it. This is the whole shebang. The entire timeline, every single event, every connection, all mapped out. It looks like a complete nightmare, I get it, an impossible puzzle, but hang in there, because our mission is to make sense of this thing. All right, so here's how we're going to do it. We're breaking it down into 5 key parts. First, we'll look at the wind and knot itself, then the two worlds and the rules of this crazy game. After that, we'll dive into the chronological labyrinth, find the origin of everything, and finally see how they actually break the cycle. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start at the very heart of the problem, what they call the wind and knot. Everything, and I mean everything, revolves around this small German town, Winden. And this town is trapped in what's called a bootstrap paradox. So, what's that? Well, think of it this way. It's like an object or an idea that has no beginning. It's just stuck in a time loop, creating itself over and over again. The past creates the future, but that future loops back to make sure the past happens in exactly the same way. It is a perfect, totally unbreakable loop, and all of our characters are trapped right in the middle of it. All right, so before we actually jump into the dates and events, we got to understand the rules of the game. Because here's the biggest twist, the biggest secret of Dark. This whole knot, this whole paradox, it's not just happening in one reality. Yeah, there isn't just one Winden. Turns out this whole story is playing out across 3 different realities. You've got World 1, which is Jonas's world, the one we start in. Then there's World 2, which is kind of like a mirror version, and it's all about Martha. But, and this is the big one, hiding behind both of them is a third secret world, the origin world. And this right here, this is the core conflict of the whole show. World 1 is run by this old, scarred, super cynical version of Jonas. He goes by Adam. And he's decided the only way to fix things is to just destroy everything, to end all the suffering. But then you have World 2, led by an older Martha who calls herself Eva. And she is the complete opposite. She thinks that the knot, with all its pain, has to be preserved no matter what, because that's the only way to make sure everyone she loves continues to exist. So you have this epic war, destruction versus preservation. Okay, so we've got the rules down. Now we can finally step into the labyrinth itself. Let's do a quick fire tour through the key moments that really lock this wind and knot into place. Believe it or not, the roots of this story go all the way back to 1888. This is where a future version of Jonas, the stranger, and his friends get stranded. They're the ones who form that shadowy group Sigmundus, which basically pulls the strings for the next 100 years. And it's right here, in this time period, that we see a young Jonas start down that long, dark road to becoming the man who will eventually call himself Adam. Okay, let's jump forward to the core of the loop, the 70s and 80s. This is where the real machinery of the paradox gets built. Ava's followers cause a problem at the nuclear power plant, which, in 1986, leads to the creation of the God particle. Yep, that radioactive gunk that literally makes time travel possible. But at the exact same time, something really critical is happening in that hidden origin world. A scientist, H.G. Tannhaus, loses his entire family in a horrible accident. And that single event, well, it unknowingly dooms everyone. And here we are at what the show calls the present day. It all kicks off in 2019 when little Mikkel Nielsen vanishes, only to travel back to 1986, which creates the completely impossible family tree that basically defines Winden. All of this leads to one date, June 27th, 2020, the apocalypse. The nuclear plant goes boom, and when it does, time itself just glitches. It freezes for a fraction of a second. This creates what's called quantum entanglement, a tiny loophole, a crack in reality where different timelines can exist at once. And that little glitch, it's the key to everything. Flash forward to the future, and it's not pretty. It's a desolate, post-apocalyptic world. Survivors, like the genius Claudia Tiedemann, are trying to figure out what the heck actually happened. And all the while, from his base in 2053, Adam is setting up his final, brutal plan. He actually kills the Martha from the other world, thinking that this is it. This is the move that will finally break the cycle. But He couldn't be more wrong. So, if Adam's big plan was a total bust, then what's the real answer? How do you solve this? Well, this brings us to it. The single biggest revelation of the entire series. The true origin of everything. Remember that scientist, H.G. Tannhaus? The one who lost his family back in the 80s? Well, his grief? That's the origin. See, he tried to build a time machine to bring them back, but the experiment went horribly wrong. It didn't go back in time, it literally shattered his reality. It split his one normal world into two, creating the warring, paradoxical worlds of Adam and Eva that we've been following this whole time. And this is where that whole quantum entanglement thing, that glitch, becomes so important. For just a split second during the apocalypse, reality forks. In one version, Martha saves Jonas and takes him to her world. In another, she gets stopped, and Jonas is set on the path to becoming Adam. But the glitch creates a third path, a hidden possibility, an exception to the rules. And it's this tiny window that allows an older, wiser Adam to show up and give Jonas the one piece of information that changes the entire game. And this, finally, brings us to the end game. Armed with this impossible knowledge, Jonas and Martha get one last shot. A chance to do what Adam and Eva fought and failed to do for centuries, to break the cycle, for good. See, for their entire existence, Adam and Eva were stuck. They were locked in this war. And they both thought the answer had to be found inside their two worlds. One wanted to destroy the knot, the other wanted to preserve it. But they were both trying to untie a knot that was, well, it was literally infinite. But the real solution, the one Claudia finally figured out, was so much simpler, so much more elegant. She realized you don't fight the knot. You don't try to untie it. You go back and you stop it from ever being tied in the first place. And the key to all of this, it wasn't some huge cosmic war across time and space. Nope. It was something small, something deeply human, just a single act of kindness, saving one family from a terrible fate. Their real mission, it was never about winning a war. It was about healing the one true world that their own broken worlds were born from. So here's what happens. Jonas and Martha use that tiny loophole in time to travel to the origin world, right before that fatal car crash, and they stop it. They save Tannhaus's family. And because his family lives, he's happy. He never has a reason to build his time machine. And if the machine is never built, Adam's world and Eva's world are never created, which means Jonas, Martha, and every single person born inside that impossible knot, they just cease to exist. They fade away, a final heartbreaking sacrifice to restore the one true reality. And that's where the show leaves us, with this one last kind of haunting question. Jonas and Martha are gone because their worlds were never really supposed to exist. But everything they went through, their love, their suffering, all the choices they made, does that make any of it less real? It's a question that really gets to the core of what makes this story so unforgettable.